Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, Part 18, Chapter 37, Consuelo and Cocaine, or Consuelo y la Cocaína. So this is the book, Confessions of a Spanish Teacher. I've only a couple of parts to read out. I'm going to put the whole playlist up together. So I know there's a few of you out there that have said to me they're waiting until the whole thing's done and they like to listen to it one after the other instead of waiting for the next installment. So there's only another couple of parts to do. So I will be putting the playlist out there. But also you can buy the book on Kindle or in paperback like this, which is available on Amazon. So let's continue with part 18, chapter 37, Consuelo y la Cocaína. Okay. Not yesterday, literally, this was when I wrote the book, obviously, I was helped out in a personal matter by my fellow teacher, Liz, who has worked with me now for over 2 years and helps out with classes. I am eternally grateful. I started to think of all the other teachers I have had working with me over the years and how fortunate I've been to have so many good helpers. Some have even started as students with me and then become Spanish teachers themselves. Some work independently now, teaching Spanish themselves. In one way, they're my rivals, but I don't look at it like that because what better endorsement is there for me, for my teaching method, that my students have gone on to become teachers themselves? I love it. But one teacher I will never forget is Consuelo, not her real name. I advertised for a teacher, and as usual, I received many replies. I did not know then, but experience has taught me that CVs mean very little, and neither do qualifications. Teachers are born, not made. Qualifications help, of course, but a week-long online TEFL course does not a teacher make. Neither does even a teaching degree mean that you can communicate knowledge. It's an art. Empathy and intuition is worth twice as much as any qualification or impressive CV. Well, Consuelo had both, an impressive CV and an impressive teaching degree. Unfortunately, she was the worst teacher I have ever had, with the possible exception of one British guy at summer school, who maybe I'll talk about in another blog. Certainly this experience for me was the worst. She came over well in her interview. A little bossy maybe, but that's not a bad thing either for a teacher, as you do have to take control sometimes. She spoke English, so she could explain things to the students. She seemed personable and smart. I needed someone to teach, so I could go out and help people with interpreting, residencias, etc. So I took her on. Well, it all started well, though some students said they couldn't understand her English explanations very well. Fair enough, I told her or asked her to speak more slowly to them. Then strange reports were coming back from the students, a very mixed feedback. One day it would be, Consuelo is a terrible teacher. I didn't understand anything. But then the next day it would be, just had a brilliant class with Consuelo. It was fab. Sometimes from the same person. I know you can't please all the people all the time. So we persevered. Then she started not always turning up for classes. We would have 6 students waiting and no teacher. My other teacher, Esther, sometimes stepped in, or I would have to come back from wherever I was with clients and take the class. So I sat her down for a talk. She became very emotional and she told me her father was dying of cancer. This especially struck a chord with me, as very recently at the same time, my own father had died suddenly and I was devastated. We talked at length and I gave her many more chances than she deserved. Looking back, I think this is the worst thing that she did, using her father's illness as an excuse. I still don't know if it was actually real or not, to excuse her behaviour. A couple of months passed and things did not improve. Anyway, it all came to a head one Friday afternoon when she didn't turn up again, leaving a full group of students stranded. I was miles away and I couldn't get back to take the class. We tried and tried to get through to her on the phone, but to no avail. When I finally got through, many hours later, there was no apology, no reason given. She sounded like she had just woken up. So I regretfully informed her I would not be needing her services anymore. It was like a bomb had gone off. She began to scream, and I mean scream, that she would report me to the Spanish authorities. There were laws in this country. I could not just do that. She would see me go to prison. How dare I? I was just a foreigner and I would not get away with it, etc., etc. Over the weekend, I was bombarded with similar calls, including one from her female solicitor. Strange that they were working on a Sunday, threatening me with legal action. The only good thing about this was it made me feel less guilty about letting her go. The following Monday, I went into work and explained to the other teacher what had happened. She said, "Thank God you finally got rid of her. She's a cocaine addict, but I didn't like to tell you." Great, thanks for that. Looking back, it all makes sense. The mood swings, the good days, the bad days. Most teachers are happy with alcohol. I had to pick the one that was a cocaine addict. Anyway, Consuelo went on to open an academy with her English boyfriend, who, interestingly enough, had been the husband of one of my students and she had stolen that husband off him. It's a small world. They had begun an affair while she was teaching him Spanish before she came to work at my school, and he had left his wife devastated for her. Needless to say, that school did not last long. Chapter 38, The Receptionist. I must have like a big poster on my head saying I'm a mug, come and, I'm too nice sometimes. I tell you, I really am too nice sometimes. Anyway, The Receptionist. There's another one. I always find it ironic that here in the expat community in Spain, there are so many people looking for work. But when you need someone to do a job, good people are practically impossible to find. The wages are low, of course, which does not help. But I have lived in Spain for over 20 years and it seems to me wages have never gone up. In fact, they've maybe even gone down. La crisis, the recession, and of course now COVID have stunted economic growth. Now, that was when I wrote this. Actually, the Spanish economy is doing well now. Work contracts, are few and far between. It's so expensive to put your staff on a contract, so few small businesses do it. It's quite depressing when you advertise for work because you receive hundreds of applications, but only a few of them are appropriate. The first problem are people who have recently arrived in Spain. They have high UK-like expectations for their salary or wherever their country is, and they have not yet realised they will never get that sort of money in Spain. Or if they do get anywhere near it, they will be expected to work practically 24 hours a day and sweat blood, especially if there's a contract on offer as well. Sometimes they'll be lucky to get paid what they are promised at all. and they may find out that the contract they thought they had doesn't actually exist. My experiences of working for other people, I'll leave to other posts. But basically, bad experience working for people in Spain is the reason a lot of us work for ourselves. If you're going to be insecure anyway, you may as well be insecure working for yourself. When Judy came along for an interview for a part-time receptionist, she was one of these. She had recently left her job working for a big and quite prestigious company in the UK, and she had relocated to Spain. I should have been prepared, because if she mentioned this company once, she mentioned it 1,000 times. So much that a student who was actually there at the time as I was interviewing her messaged me to say, "It takes a bullshitter to know one," and I am one, so I can clearly see that she is too. I gave her the benefit of the doubt because I'm an idiot, as I thought she's probably trying to impress, of course, and she seemed to have a cheery personality and be very willing to please. Another clue I should have noticed, however, is that she seemed to have brought lots of things from this company with her: stationery, pens, etc. I think God, I tell you what, I think that company, the things that must have gone missing for it when she left, because she had them all in her house. Anyway, she seemed like the best of a not so brilliant bunch, and she began work. I am a very small business. Well, now there's only me. I've given up with staff. I can't cope with it. It's too much pressure to pay them, pressure when they're rubbish. Anyway, so I'm a very small business with a fluctuating income. That's the other thing. My income is very arbitrary. I have busy times, I have very quiet times. So sometimes we're very busy, other times not so much. The job is varied, a little bit of anything that basically makes my life easier. And Judy was aware of all this and agreed to it from the start. Some receptionists like variance, as I think it means the job's not boring, but maybe it wouldn't suit everyone. But I always make this clear from the start, as it was made to Judy, and she agreed enthusiastically. I did come to realise, however, that her favourite part of the job was sitting at the desk on her computer. But that's what I was doing, sitting at the desk on my computer, because I was in classes, so I had no choice. I needed her to do things I could not do. Anyway, in my experience, people agreed to everything in the beginning. Then they try to change the parameters of the job as they go along to suit themselves and make the job about them rather than you. Judy was one of these. She friended nearly all the students on Facebook. She started taking a register of attendance, even though that's what I did anyway. She was permanently glued to her telephone. Now, I was of the opinion that I didn't feel that I should have to tell a woman of over 40 that this is not acceptable at work. She only worked part-time, so she had plenty of time outside work to sort out her personal life. However, in other things she was good. No one is perfect, so in the beginning I turned a blind eye to a lot of things. As time went on, she started asking for more hours. She said that she liked the job, but it wasn't enough hours. I tried my best to find these hours for her. Sometimes it's easier than others, depending on the time of year and how busy we are. After a while, it became a constant strain, so I had to admit to her that I could only guarantee the part-time hours that she had agreed to in the beginning, and I understood if she wanted to look for another job. She said she would have to, but she would give me plenty of notice should she find one. Time passed, and I carried on giving her as many hours as possible. I was constantly asking her, "Have you got enough to do? There's always something else to do if you finish one thing. So if you run out of work, just let me know." Yes, she agreed. Another little irk that I had was that she was always late, always late. She did travel a long way, which was a concern I expressed at the beginning. But of course, she'd said at the beginning, it won't be a problem, it won't be a problem. So my classes started at 9 and I wanted her to be here when the students arrived. So I even started paying her from 8:45 to make sure she was there on time because she would always rock up at 9:10. Yeah, so if I didn't, I felt like I had to pay her for an extra 15 minutes because otherwise she wouldn't be here for 9. Anyway, this sort of boiled over one day when I had to be somewhere. And I waited for her till 10 to 9 and she still wasn't there. I came out to find that she was sat in her car texting outside. I was a little miffed, to say the least. The worst thing, however, was the day when one of my, it was Skype then, before Zoom students, had to leave the class briefly as someone had arrived at their house. So they turned out to be away longer than they thought they were going to be. So I was just looking on the computer while I was waiting. The computer I used to use for Skype is the one that Judy normally used. So I clicked into the history. Very interesting. Weeks of visits to various sites. Latest on X Factor, Facebook, Google News, Colleen Rooney bus stop, houses for sale, job applications, and various entries to her personal Gmail account, etc. On one day, there were 22 visits to her Google email account alone. One day. I was very hurt as I tried to give my best to give Judy as many hours as possible, and it seems like she had used many of those hours for her personal life. I did not mind the job applications, but in her own time. If she would have asked me if she could use the computer for an extra half an hour after she finished work, I would have agreed, of course. But honesty is everything. That she had done this while telling me she had plenty of work to do, for me it was unforgivable. Or if it had only been a couple of personal things in one day, but not the extent it was. She only worked 3 days a week. She had plenty of her own time to see what was happening in X Factor. When I challenged her, initially she was incredulous that I was challenging her. She said, "Oh, okay, so I went on the computer in my lunch break. Is that bad?" And I had to remind her that yes, in fact it was, because actually she was paid straight through. She didn't actually have an official lunch break because she only did 4 hours or whatever in a day. So I said to her, yes, you are paid straight through. You only work part-time. You do not get a lunch break. I did not mind her taking 15 minutes to eat her lunch, and she often would bring her lunch and eat it at the computer, and maybe she did look at things then, which is fine. 15 minutes, yes, but looking at your emails 22 times in her lunch break, is that really in the lunch break she doesn't have? Anyway, needless to say, we parted company. I wish Judy well. She liked my method. She bought my books to learn Spanish. And then she immediately blocked me on all her social media. Presumably she had enough friends now with all the students that she'd added. She never apologised. I think she thought she was entitled to do these things. At the big company she'd worked for before, it would have gone unnoticed. Luckily, I have some nice reception. I've had some nice receptionists too. Chapter 39. I can see clearly now. So this is COVID Diaries 3, Part 3. If you're a reader who follows my YouTube channels, you may know that last year in 2020, on the very first weekend of the confinamiento or lockdown in Spain, in March, I had a little accident. I was washing my hair in the shower, one of those showers that go into a bath, and I slipped on some conditioner, fell and banged my eye on the side of the bath. I banged it so hard I gave myself a lovely black eye, and it can be seen clearly on the videos I made around that time. I actually think I broke my nose as I have a little dent next to the eye socket, and I've never washed my hair in the shower since. I didn't go to the doctors or the hospital, although I think I had concussion too. COVID was rife. Hospitals were full. And what would they do anyway? The black eye faded. I survived. And as time went on, I practically forgot about it. Although, as I say, I was extra careful in the shower after that. Time went on, and in September, classroom classes restarted, and things started to get a little bit more back to normal. I spent a lot of time on the computer, finishing off a few book projects and updating my Break the Language Barrier series. My right eye started to feel a little bit tired, and I started to notice a slight blurriness of vision. Being one of those people that is absolutely useless at going to the doctors, I put it down to eye strain and I waited for it to improve, resting my eyes as much as possible. It did not. Interestingly, I felt I was viewing the world from this eye through frosted glass, though luckily for me, the vision in my other eye was very good, so I could function perfectly well. As Christmas approached, I gave up thinking it would improve and contacted my doctor, who immediately made me an appointment with the eye specialist. By now I was panicking as I suffer from high blood sugar, which I was not controlling very well, and I was starting to think maybe it was related to this. I also wondered about the bang I had given my eye. Had I detached my retina or something? As we know, Google is great in some ways, but it can also give you sleepless nights. Anyway, I turned up for my eye appointment very concerned. The young girl I saw on the first appointment was lovely, though she only looked about 12. A sure sign of old age when doctors and policemen start to look like children. She started off by saying it was probably related to the fall, but she first of all said it couldn't be a cataract as they came on very slowly, not so quickly. But then on further investigation, more scans and tests, she saw that yes, it was a cataract. I was absolutely gobsmacked. What? A cataract? Only old people have cataracts. Ah, hang on, I will be 60 soon. How the hell did that happen? The nice girl told me that trauma to the eye can in fact cause or accelerate a cataract. But the good news was that it was easy to remove. I was given another appointment where the cataract was confirmed and the process began, leading to an operation. Google was quite reassuring in the success rate of cataract surgery, so I duly went along for my blood test and cardiogram. Apart from the fact that my blood sugar was totally out of control, that's another story, now controlled. I was fit to go from February and told to wait for the call from for a COVID test to be followed shortly by the operation date. In the meantime, COVID, are you as fed up as I am with that word, had taken hold again over here, and we were again under restrictions with hospitals full again. A couple of months rolled by with no news, but to be honest, it wasn't getting any worse and I'd learned to live with it. As my other eye was fine, it really didn't affect my normal life, and I wasn't looking forward to the prospect of eye surgery as I am a complete wuss. The more I started to contemplate the fact that I was actually going to have surgery on my eye, the more terrified I became. Perhaps it would be better if they just forgot about me. What did I need two eyes for? I was coping fine with one. Eventually, I did call to check I was on the list, and things started to open up again. And I was told, yes, it won't be long. Bloody brilliant. By then, Spain was getting on also with the vaccine rollout, so I was happy to wait, as my eyes, pardon the pun, they had so many more important things to do. As in my eyes, sorry, pardon the pun, they had so many more important things to do. I put the operation to the back of my mind, and I just got on with enjoying our new freedoms as the restrictions had lifted bit by bit. Then last week, it all happened. To be continued.